Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if this is your first time of visiting this channel, click on the subscribe button and smash the notification bell so that whenever I post a new video you will get notified as soon as possible. Yeah, so we've come to the end of the week, right? And so just as we normally do before we enter into a new week, we look at what is happening in the market so far as these pairs are concerned. And then we see what the market has for us going into a new week. Yeah, last week was NFP week, and for that matter, things were rough on the market for me. All right, yes, I mean, I shouldn't have traded. All right, I should have folded my arms, but I mean, it is what it is. All right, yeah, but I mean, it's all good. It's all part of the experience. Things were rough for me and all that. Lots of manipulations on the market here and there, and I mean it's all good. All right, sometimes when you get the experience, you know how to handle things the next time you face such situations. All right, yeah, so that is just that for last week. Let's delve deep into the market and see whatever the market is going to present to us going into a new week. So normally let's start with the dollar index. So the NFP last week gave us positive numbers. All right, it was way above expectation, and that should tell you how strong the dollar is right now. And so at the moment I'm not expecting to see any bearishness as far as the dollar index is concerned. If there should be any bearishness, it should be a very short term sort of bearishness. But on a long term view, or on a macro view, the dollar index is bullish. All right, heavily bullish. The dollar index is heavily bullish at the moment. All right, here. So this high, I'm going to work within this range. All right, I'm going to work within this range. So going into next week, I want to see price trade through 115 area. All right, that is where I want to see price trade through, and so I want to see price move to the upside going into next week. But before that, let's switch to the 4-hour and see. All right, so we have an order block here. All right, some people also say demand zone. I think it's the same thing and all that. All right, we have an order block here, so we are likely to see price push within this zone. All right, we are likely to see price push within this zone before we see a continuation to the upside, or we are likely to see price come back here. But for price to come back here, I doubt. All right, because of the strength in the dollar. I doubt. All right, and so I'm going to look at how price is going to react Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday. And even on Monday, we have a bank holiday for the US market. All right, so for us to see price move into the zone is going to take a lot of effort. All right, for us to see price move into this zone is really going to take a lot of effort. All right, it's going to take a lot of effort because of Monday being a bank holiday. So that means you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All right, and if you've been watching my analysis, I always tell you that on a weekly profile, to get a bearish week, you want to see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Any of these days make the high of the week. All right, so that means we have to see bullishness making the high of the week before we see sales. If you are bullish on a pair, you want to see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, any of these days make the low of the week before we see price shoot to the upside. All right, but looking at the conditions here, man, I think price will just get here and then we see a push to the upside. All right, yeah, so going into next week, that is my expectation on the dollar index. All right, that is my expectation on the dollar index. Let's quickly switch to AUDUSD and see what is happening. Let's quickly switch to AUDUSD. Yeah, so for AUDUSD, if I'm bullish on the dollar index, that means I should expect bearish movement so far as the Australian dollar versus the US dollar is concerned, right? Because at the moment the dollar index is what? Strong, right? And it is really giving us that indication here, all right? Order flow wise, AUDUSD is what? Is bearish, and so we have to look for what? Selling prices going into next week. But look at what just happened, all right? Look at what just happened. We've seen price taking out this major low, all right? This major daily low that we are seeing here. We've seen price taking out this major low. We've seen price taking out this major low, and so going into next week, I will expect to see a little bit of retracement. Let's switch the 4-hour and see. I expect to see a little bit of retracement, if not for anything at all, into this bullish candle we are seeing here, all right, before we see a continuation to the downside, all right, before we see a continuation to the downside. I'm not really expecting the retracement to be so heavy that it will violate this bullish candle here, all right. Here, no, I want to see it here, all right, because of the strength in the dollar, all right. It's really going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of effort for us to see this, but I'm not seeing this happening right now. I want to see this happening, all right. This is what I'm expecting to see before we see a continuation to the downside. So I'm bearish, all right. I'm bearish on AUDUSD. I'm bearish on AUDUSD. Let's look at what is happening on USDCAD. So if I'm bullish on the dollar index, then definitely I should be bullish. I should be looking for bullish prices on USDCAD. All right, because I mean they move in the same direction. So with USDCAD, I'm going to look at this zone. All right, and then this zone. All right. Yes, I'm going to look at this zone. I'll expect price to take out these highs. All right, I'll expect price to take out these highs. But going into next week, I want to see price retrace a little bit. All right, at least this week here, this week we are seeing here. All right, if I should zoom into the lower time frame, it's going to give us what? A bullish candle. Yeah. Yes, so that is that. If I'm so this is it. All right, this is it, but I can't see it. Let me just see if I can check. Let me check the visibility. Let me check. Yeah, so if I'm to zoom it to, yeah, so just as you can see here, all right, so I want to see price retrace a little bit, all right, if not for anything at all, right into this area, all right, right into this area. Then we see price push to the upside, all right, we see price push to the upside. And so going into next week, I'm bullish on USDCAD. I'll be looking for bullish prices, all right, but before the bullish prices happen, I want to see price retrace, all right, to the zone to form the low of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in between these days, before I see a continuation to the upside here. So that is my expectation on USDCAD going into next week. That is my expectation on USDCAD going into next week. So if price finally breaks this high, then definitely I'm going to add more positions. All right, if price breaks this high, then I'm really going to be very bullish on this pair. So let's just see what happens going into next week. All right, so remember, this should be the range you should be looking out for. All right, this should be the range you should be looking out for. Let's look at what is happening on EURAUD. For EURAUD, this pair really punished me last week. Yeah, this pair really punished me last week, because I mean, right after this heavy bearish engulfing candle we saw here, all right, creating a rejection block, as we are seeing here. I was expecting price to at least even if it will fill this bearish candle, at least 50% of it, then we see a push to the downside. But look at what happened. All right, so the whole of last week, this pair didn't really give us a good price action. All right, this pair didn't really give us a good price action. It looks like it's still looking bullish. All right, because if you should check the weekly, this is how the weekly reacted. All right, so a very deep rejection to the upside, a very deep rejection to the upside. And so going into next week, I'll be looking for bullish prices on this pair. All right, I'll be looking for bullish price on this pair. So I'm going to see how price is going to react within this zone. All right, I'm going to see how price is going to react within this zone. Let's switch to the daily. Yes, I'm going to see how price is going to react within this zone. If you are going to see price continuing to the upside, I don't want to see price break below this low. All right, I don't want to see price break below this low. I just want to see price move at least 50% of this zone before we see a continuation to the upside, or as soon as market opens, then we see a rally to the upside. Because these kind of pairs, they don't really behave like the USD pairs, where you always expect to see the low of the week form between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. All right, because sometimes these pairs, I've really been trading Euro AUD for quite some time now. It doesn't really follow that trend. All right, if it's really heavily bullish, well, as soon as market opens, Sunday Asia session on Monday, we will see what price moving either to the upside or the downside, depending on how the market is conditioned. All right, sometimes too it follows, but it is not always all the time that we see this happening on pairs like the Euro AUD and the other non-USD pairs. All right, here, so this is what I will expect to see. All right, this zone is going to be my area of focus. I'm really going to monitor how price is going to react within this zone. All right, yes, if you are really bullish, I don't want to see price violate. Once this low is violated, then definitely we are going to see bearishness setting into the market, taking out this liquidity here. All right, as well as these liquidities as well. So that is my expectation on Euro AUD going into next week. All right, yeah, let's look at what is happening on CHFJPY. Let's go what is happening in CHF. So for CHFJPY, last week I showed you a 3-month time frame. All right, last week I showed you a 3-month time frame as to where price action is. All right, and just look at the after this heavy bearish candle here. All right, and look at the correction. That should tell you that price is still bearish. All right, price is still bearish. And so going into next week, I'll be looking for selling prices. All right, I'll be looking for selling prices. So far as CHFJPY is concerned, I'll be looking for selling prices. All right, yes, so this low, all right, I'm going to work within this range. I'm going to work within this range high, and then this range low. All right, and so this major low has been taken out off. All right, that gives us a shift in what? In market structure. All right, that gives us a shift in market structure. And so going into next week, I'll be looking for bearish prices on CHFJPY. I'll be looking for bearish prices on CHFJ. But let's look at something on the weekly. All right, let's look at something on the weekly. So this was the accumulation phase before we saw the impulse swing to the upside. And so if you are to see price break below this zone, then definitely we are going to have a very long-term bearishness so far as CHFJPY is concerned. So in as much as I'm going to be bearish on this pair, it's going to be a short-term bearishness until I see this low taken out until I see this low taken out. Any trade I take on this is going to be a short-term trade. All right, yes, it can be a scalp, or it can be just a day trade. But so far as swing trading is concerned, so far as swing trading is concerned, I'm really going to wait for this low to be broken, all right, for price to come back in the form of retracement before I see SLs to the downside. Yeah, so that is just that for CHFJPY. Let's look at what is happening on AUDCHF. Let's look at what is happening on AUDC. So for AUDCHF, price is looking bearish. All right, we have been in a bearish order flow for a very long time, but let's switch to the weekly and see what is happening on the weekly. So on the weekly, we are seeing some sort of imbalance within this area. All right, so this is an imbalance, and I'm expecting the price to move to that zone. I'm really expecting price to move to that zone, but at the moment, this is where price is currently sitting. This is where price is currently sitting, and so I want to see price break out of the zone before we can see this imbalance being filled. And so going into next week, I'll be expecting some bearish prices on AUDCHF, but this daily low we are seeing here is going to be a zone I would wait for price to break first. Once that zone is broken, then definitely it gives me the opportunity to go into the market and look for sales. Once that low is broken, it gives me the opportunity to go into the market and look for sales. So I want to see this happening before I take any decision so far as this pair is concerned. So that is my expectation on AUDCHF. I don't want to really go to the left side of the chart because it's too wide. All right, the left side of the chart is looking very wide. Information there was around last year, and at the moment I can't tell as to whether it still holds or not. So currently I'm just focusing on the current price action and see how things are going to react. So that is just that for AUDCHF. Let's look at what is happening on NZDCHF. So AUDCHF, NZDCHF, same plan, all right, because they are positively correlated pairs, and for that matter, they move in the same direction. So if I'm bearish on AUDCHF, I'm also bearish on NZDCHF. Yeah, so I'll be expecting to see price. All right, I'll be expecting to see price violate the zone before I take any decision so far as this pair is concerned. So going into next week, this is what I'll be waiting to see. If not, if price respects this zone, I'll patiently wait to see this high violated before I jump in for any bullish movements or before I look for any bullish setups. Yeah, so that is my expectation on NZDCHF going into next week. Let's look at what is happening on AUDJPY. So for AUDJPY, higher time frame is giving us a bearish sentiment. Higher time frame is giving us a bearish sentiment. Let's switch to the weekly and see. Yeah, so this is the weekly. All right, this is really the weekly, and so going into next week, I'll be looking for selling prices. All right, yeah, so we saw very huge rejection to the downside last week. Yeah, we saw a very huge rejection to the downside last week, and so going into a new week, I'll be looking out for how price is going to react within the zone. I'm looking out for how price is going to react within the zone. If definitely we are going to see sales, then I want to see price pull back a little bit within the zone. Then we see a push to the downside, of which this push is going to be a long term if whatever I'm expecting to happen on the market pays out. But let's switch to the daily and see what is happening on the daily. Yes, so on the daily time frame, this low This low has been violated already, all right, and so this major low is what I'll be expecting to see price would violate. So once it get violated, then definitely we are going to see a long-term movement to the downside. But at the moment, I'm going to take this bullish candle here as my point of interest. All right, in that I want to see price retrace a little bit into the zone before we see a push to the downside. It's really going to take a lot of effort to see price push up here. All right, it's really going to take a lot of effort, but I just want to see price pull back within the zone, then we see a push to the downside. So that is my expectation on AUDJPY going into next week. All right, so that is just that, and that is what I'll be looking out for going into next week. If you're not part of my Telegram community, just look through the description box below. The link is there. Click on it and be part of the Flax Forex Telegram community. If you haven't subscribed to, just hit on the subscribe button and then smash the notification bell too as well. I'll come your way again another time. I wish you all good luck and good trade.